struggle. But while he's writing, he develops a tremor in his left hand. Is it a side effect of the dislocation, or something else coming apart inside him? Once Hitler is released, he rises to prominence in a country riddled with inflation, unemployment, and political instability. He subjects his body to a punishing schedule as he campaigns for the National Socialist, or Nazi Party, across Germany. The Nazis promised the German people ruthless and radical change.
Many people, including many good liberal people, including many good social democrats, nevertheless said, yes, we thought that actually it was worth voting for Hitler because we thought he actually might make a difference.
There is something which is powerfully attractive about identifying with someone who seems to be so single-minded, so one-dimensional as Hitler comes across, especially for people who are frightened or conflicted.
Hitler is fired up with a missionary zeal and pushes himself to the limit. In one 2-week period, he delivers 50 speeches in 50 different towns across Germany. It pays off. In 1933, Hitler is made Reichschancellor. He transforms the state into a dictatorship, persecuting Jews, Bolsheviks, and anybody who opposes his rule. Germany is changing. By 1935, Hitler has been campaigning without rest for over 10 years. He has put his body under so much strain that his body reacts. As a child, he suffered from acute stomach pains. The problem resurfaces. His stomach swells and he suffers intestinal spasms. You can see the bloated stomach in Hitler's expanding waistline.
There are some conditions such as irritable bowel syndrome that are very much affected by stress and made much worse. So if he had problems with irritable bowel, which he might have seen as constipation and sometimes diarrhea, bloating, then that definitely would have been made worse by stress.
Also affected is his voice. Doctors discover a growth on Hitler's vocal cords. Hitler fears that he has cancer.
He was concerned that he might also have what his mother had, that he might have cancer. One wonders whether this wasn't a concern about the fact that he might have some humanity, the way his mother did.
Hitler demands that the tumor be cut out. Doctors operate and discover it's not cancer. It's a simple polyp, caused by too much screaming.
Laryngeal nodules or polyps are quite common. Classically, singers get them, and it's often used from not having your voice trained properly. So obviously during the 1920s and 1930s, Hitler did an awful lot of rallies, so he would have been ranting and shouting and screaming at an awful lot of people in large auditoriums, and without the proper voice training, it's really no surprise that he developed nodules on his larynx.
The polyp is cut out, but the fear of cancer brings out Hitler's latent paranoia about his health. It's a paranoia that will escalate with far-reaching consequences. He takes control of the media so that only images of a strong leader are presented to the people. And the people go along with it.
There was the adulation in his early years that he was exposed to constantly. It must have been a very heady thing. He must have somehow believed that he was the embodiment of the German people. They certainly treated him that way.
Given Hitler's grandiosity, he identified himself, his own body, with Germany. It's not uncommon among fanatics to identify themselves figuratively and literally with an ideal, with a country, so that they begin to feel that they embody those ideals. That kind of malignant narcissism, which doesn't tolerate anything which falls short of their ideals, is all too common among a variety of fanatics.
And there is no ideal closer to Hitler than that of a racially pure Germany.
Da muss das deutsche junge Naturkunft lang und rank sein, flink wie Windhunde, zäh wie Leder und hart wie Kruppstahl.
Hitler wants to create the Aryan master race, a new breed of men and women embodying his ideals of health and purity. Of course, this ideal is far removed from Hitler himself. His own body is continuing to fall apart. His stomach cramps are worsening, he suffers constipation, and most embarrassingly, severe flatulence. Often his condition is strong enough for him to have to excuse himself from meetings.
Hitler suffered from a variety of gastrointestinal complaints. He had something that was called meteorism, which simply meant dilatation, expansion of the belly filled with gas. And I suspect, in fact, that Hitler was an aerophagist. In other words, he swallowed gas.
Desperate to find a cure for his gastric problems, Hitler creates a vegetarian diet. He takes simple meals of soup and mashed beans. Wherever he travels, his staff make sure he's supplied with a fresh stock of garden vegetables.
He gradually eliminated all the rich foods and the fatty foods, rich pastries, which he'd previously enjoyed. He was a man who liked his food.
But the vegetarian diet only makes things worse.
There are certain foodstuffs that will tend to encourage the production of more gas than others, a classical being a vegetarian diet of beans and vegetables, which Hitler himself enjoyed.
Hitler also has to liquefy his food because his teeth are in such an appalling state. He has bad breath and suffers from inflammation of the gums. By the time he reaches his mid-40s, he has only 14 of his natural teeth remaining. He has an unusual set of 3 dental bridges made. The bridges are to be essential in identifying Hitler's body after his death. Hitler is aware his body is letting him down in public. He asks the photographer Heinrich Hoffmann to take pictures of him. Images of a leader that Hitler wants to project to the rest of the world. While they are working, Hitler tells Hoffmann about his medical complaints. Hoffmann recommends a personal physician who might be able to help. He's a urologist with a reputation for miracle cures, and his name is Dr. Theodor Morell.
Heinrich Hoffmann, who had been treated by Morell, he thought that Morell had cured him of gonorrhea, and he's very grateful for Morell, thought he was a great physician, and he finally persuaded Hitler to see him.
The first thing Dr. Morell does is give Hitler a complete medical examination. To keep Hitler's medical records confidential, Morell refers to him in writing as Patient A. Morell notices an eczema rash on Hitler's left leg, but it's the gastric problems that Morell is really interested in. To discover the source of Hitler's complaints, Morell turns to the Führer's feces. The doctor becomes increasingly obsessed with Hitler's bowel movements and makes detailed records of Hitler's daily excretions.
It's very difficult to explain why Dr. Morell was quite as obsessed with Hitler's faeces. But there are a few things that you can tell from faeces, particularly the colour and the consistency. And that can tell you a lot about what's going on in the gut in terms of absorption and breakdown of various products.
Morell finds what he calls sick bacteria in Hitler's faeces. He proposes a cure called Mutaflor.
He prescribed what even then would be regarded as a quack remedy, and that was bacteria in capsules.
He takes healthy bacteria from the feces of a healthy peasant and makes them into capsules for Hitler to swallow. The idea is that the healthy bacteria will kill off the sick bacteria in Hitler's digestive system.
This formulation was something that Morell made in his own pharmaceutical factory. It contained a bacterium known as Bacillus coli communis. Morell thought that the B. coli communis would take root in Hitler's bowel and get rid of bad bacteria in the bowel.
It seems to work. After several treatments of Mutaflor, the eczema on Hitler's leg disappears and his digestive system improves.
It's difficult to say whether the clearing up of the eczema and the symptoms in Hitler's gut were due to something that Dr. Morell was actively doing, or actually just due to a placebo effect. Certainly, eczema is a skin condition that can be very much affected by stress, and it could well be that actually the comfort and the relaxation that Hitler got from having the attention of Dr. Morell could in itself, just through a therapeutic effect, actually have cleared up his asthma.
Hitler is thrilled with the treatment. Something about the doctor appeals to him. He makes him his personal physician. Morell is given several pharmaceutical factories, confiscated from their Jewish owners. His new position allows him to make a fortune supplying drugs to the German army. Hitler's eczema soon returns, as do the stomach pains. Most other doctors would have been dismissed, but Hitler keeps Morell on.
Well, Dr. Morell had a very, very strong bond with Hitler, and you can see a way in which potentially that could be abused, in that Hitler probably didn't question Dr. Morell that much, but would very much take whatever treatments were prescribed or suggested. So it would be quite possible for Dr. Morell, I'm not saying he did, but it would be quite possible for Dr. Morell to prescribe all sorts of quackish cures to make Hitler feel happy, but not necessarily do anything to actually solve his problems.
Over the coming years, Morell will treat the Führer with endless remedies and experimental drugs. Some will help him, many won't. By 1937, Hitler is making grand plans for Nazi Germany, but his hypochondria convinces him his own body is giving up on him. He wonders if he'll last the distance.
He was convinced that he would have a short life. He did say that several times, and he always said that he had to expedite his plans, do as much as possible in as short a period of time as possible, because he might not live.
His mission was to restore Germany to power, restore Germany to its proper place in the world as the preeminent nation of the world, not just Europe. And that was his mission.
Hitler speeds up his plans. In May 1938, Hitler issues a secret order to conquer Czechoslovakia. The peace policy is abandoned in favor of all-out expansionism.